The room was electric, but in a tense, uneasy way. Every eye was glued to the stage. Barack Obama walked in, calm but resolute. Across from him, Donald Trump's smirk said he thought he already owned the room. The audience murmured, sensing something big was about to happen. Trump leaned into the microphone, voice booming. "You can't handle the truth," he shouted, pointing at Obama. Laughter erupted from a section of the crowd. But Obama didn't flinch. His gaze was steady, almost piercing, and the laughter slowly died. He inhaled sharply, the faint scent of polished wood and hot coffee filling the hall. Then he spoke. Just 3 words. The crowd froze. 3 words, yet they felt like a lightning strike. Whispers filled the room, growing louder. Shock painted faces white. Even Trump's expression faltered, a twitch in his jaw, a fleeting look of uncertainty. No one had expected this. The 3 words were simple, clear, devastating. Every person in that hall felt it, a shift in energy, a pause, like the world itself had held its breath. And then, someone gasped, a single shattering gasp that echoed through the room. The battle had just begun. The gasp spread like wildfire. Cameras clicked, phones recorded, and the murmur became a roar. People couldn't believe what they had just heard. Obama's 3 words weren't just a clapback. They were a mirror, reflecting truths some refused to see. Trump's face tightened. The smirk vanished. He opened his mouth, but no words came. The silence was deafening. It was as if the air itself had thickened, pressing against everyone in the hall. Obama's calm presence was magnetic. He moved slowly, every step deliberate, and yet completely human. There was no arrogance, just strength, patience, and an unshakable sense of honor. Even those who disagreed with him felt compelled to listen, to pay attention. Somewhere in the crowd, a child clutched their parent's hand tightly. Eyes wide, they didn't understand politics, but they felt the tension, the electricity in the air, the weight of history being made in real time. Trump's voice finally emerged, shaky, defensive, but it was too late. The momentum had shifted. Whispers turned to shouts, anger turned to doubt, and doubt spread like a chill through a winter morning. Obama stood still. 3 words had changed everything. The room waited for the next move, but he said nothing. Yet. The murmurs swelled, blending into a low hum of disbelief and awe. People in the back rows leaned forward, straining to catch every detail. The lights overhead glinted off polished floors, reflecting the tension like sparks from an invisible fire. Trump's advisors whispered frantically, scanning notes, exchanging anxious glances. His confidence, usually so towering, felt fragile, like it could crumble at any moment. The room sensed it. Even the cameras seemed to tilt toward Obama, capturing every subtle flicker of expression, every controlled gesture. Obama's eyes scanned the audience. He saw confusion, shock, some admiration, and even fear. But most importantly, he saw attention. Total, undivided attention. The kind that makes history pause for a heartbeat. Then a faint, unexpected sound, a cough from the front row, pierced the thick silence. The audience jumped, hearts pounding. It was a small human sound, yet it cracked the tension just enough to remind everyone that this was real. Trump finally spoke, trying to reclaim control. His words were louder, sharper, but hollow, like a hammer striking air. The crowd's focus was no longer on him. It was on Obama. 3 simple words had rewritten the room's energy. And deep down, even Trump knew the game had changed. But how far would it go? No one knew. A ripple ran through the audience like wind over still water. People whispered, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others clenching their fists with quiet approval. Every eye stayed glued to Obama. Every ear hung on his next word. Trump's face was pale, a mix of irritation and panic. He shifted in his seat, trying to project confidence, but the effort was hollow. His advisors leaned in, murmuring frantically, their anxiety contagious. Then, a sudden startling change. Obama smiled, not mockingly but softly, almost warmly. It was unexpected. The tension in the room shifted for a split second. Some in the audience felt a flicker of hope, like the sun breaking through storm clouds. Trump noticed the subtle shift, and for the first time, doubt crept into his mind. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came. Silence pressed down like a heavy velvet curtain. Obama's hand moved slightly, gesturing to the crowd. Every movement deliberate, calm, commanding respect. The audience leaned in. They were waiting. Hearts raced. The air smelled faintly of coffee and polished wood, grounding them in reality, even as the emotional storm surged. Then Obama spoke again. A single sentence, short, precise. And the room collectively shivered, because the words cut deeper than anyone expected. Trump's jaw tightened. He could feel the momentum slipping through his fingers. The audience had shifted, subtly but unmistakably, aligning with Obama's calm authority. Panic flickered in his eyes. He tried to reclaim attention, but every gesture felt forced. Obama's voice carried steadily, resonating across the hall. His words weren't loud, but they hit like a drumbeat. Steady, undeniable, impossible to ignore. People leaned forward instinctively, as if drawn by gravity itself. A sudden sharp noise, a dropped pen from the front row, echoed like a gunshot. The audience flinched, even Trump's team stiffened. The room's tension was palpable, almost painful, like a held breath stretching too long. Obama paused, letting the silence linger. Every chest rose and fell in unison. His gaze briefly met Trump's. No anger, no cruelty, just unshakable calm. And yet, the look alone was enough to make the former president falter. Then, unexpectedly, Obama's expression softened even further. Vulnerability flickered in his eyes, barely noticeable, but enough to humanize him instantly. The audience felt it, a wave of empathy washing over them. 3 words, a pause, a subtle gesture. It was enough to tip the balance completely. The crowd's energy shifted, and Trump's next move became uncertain. Whispers grew louder. The audience buzzed like a live wire. Some cheered quietly, others sat stunned, gripping their seats. The air was thick, electric, almost tangible. Trump's voice rose, sharp and defensive. He jabbed words, trying to regain dominance, but every sentence fell flat. It was like throwing stones into a storm. The room no longer answered him. Obama's calmness became a magnet. Each word he spoke seemed to pull the tension toward him, away from Trump. There was authority in his tone, empathy in his pauses, and undeniable power in his restraint. Then came an unexpected shift. A security guard accidentally brushed past a camera, causing a sudden shadow across the stage. The audience gasped, startled by the fleeting disturbance. In that heartbeat, Obama's composure never wavered. Trump flinched, revealing a crack in his armor. The audience noticed immediately. The tide had turned. Whispers became chatter. Chatter became murmurs of disbelief. Even reporters jotted notes furiously, sensing history unfolding. A faint scent of heated coffee lingered, mingling with the metallic tang of anticipation. It grounded everyone in the moment, making the tension almost suffocating. Obama paused, looking at the crowd, his eyes sweeping over them. The silence was almost unbearable. Then he spoke again. 3 more words, and the audience froze. The room held its breath. Something monumental. A hush fell over the hall. Every eye was fixed on Obama, every ear straining for the next sound. The 3 words he had just spoken lingered in the air like a storm that refused to pass. Trump's hands tightened on the podium. His advisors whispered frantically, but their words were swallowed by the thick tension. The audience could feel it. uncertainty creeping into a man who rarely knew it. Obama's expression softened briefly. He looked almost human, vulnerable, and yet unshakably strong. A few in the crowd felt a lump form in their throats, a mix of awe and empathy. Something deep stirred in them, something they didn't expect to feel at a political event. Then, suddenly, a sharp metallic clang echoed from backstage. The crowd flinched. Trump's eyes widened. For a brief moment, the tension pivoted toward the unknown. What had just happened? The sound was minor, yet it magnified the suspense like a whisper before a scream. Obama didn't move. He let the silence stretch, drawing the audience into it. They were captivated, hearts pounding in unison. 3 words, a pause, a subtle human flicker, and the room's energy shifted completely. Trump tried to speak again, but his voice faltered. The audience's focus was now entirely on Obama. Something monumental was building, and no one knew the exact moment it would break. The air vibrated with anticipation. Every person in the hall felt it. The tension was nearly tangible, pressing against their chests. Cameras tilted, microphones caught every subtle sound. Trump's eyes darted, searching for a lifeline, but the room had moved beyond him. Every laugh, every sneer fell flat. He tried to interrupt to regain control, but even his allies looked uncertain. Obama's voice, calm and steady, cut through the murmur. Each word was deliberate, clear, powerful. His hands rested lightly on the podium, but the energy around him was magnetic. People leaned forward instinctively, drawn to him like moths to a quiet, unwavering flame. A faint smell of polished wood and lingering coffee lingered in the room. It was mundane, but it anchored the surreal tension in reality. Then a child's small voice called out from the crowd, "Sir, are you okay?" The question pierced the storm of political posturing. The audience gasped at the innocence. Even Trump flinched. Obama's eyes softened, and for a heartbeat, humanity shone through his leadership. He knelt slightly to meet the child's gaze. The crowd's energy shifted again. Awe mixed with empathy, respect, with disbelief. 3 words had started this storm, but one small human moment threatened to change everything in the room. The child's question lingered. Murmurs spread like wildfire, and the audience's energy shifted yet again. The room had become a live wire, charged with suspense, admiration, and a touch of fear. Trump's confidence cracked further. He opened his mouth, searching for something, anything, to regain control. But Obama's calm presence drew attention away like gravity. Words died on Trump's tongue, swallowed by the room's shifting energy. Obama's gaze swept across the audience. He didn't need to shout or gesticulate. Calm authority radiated from him. His voice, soft but firm, carried across the hall, and people leaned in without even realizing it. Suddenly, a sharp sound, a falling chair in the back, made the audience jump. Hearts skipped. The tension spiked. Yet Obama didn't flinch. He simply waited, letting the silence stretch, letting the room hold its collective breath. Then he smiled just slightly, enough to convey warmth, strength, and unwavering resolve. The audience felt it, a jolt of emotion they didn't expect. Even Trump's expression betrayed recognition. This was no ordinary debate, no ordinary confrontation. 3 words, small human gestures, and subtle shifts in tone had changed the room. But the biggest revelation, the one that would shock everyone, was still to come. Something monumental was about to unfold. The room had transformed. The energy was thick, almost suffocating, charged with disbelief and admiration. Every eye was locked on Obama, every heartbeat synchronized with the tension he had created. Trump's posture stiffened. He jabbed words, sharp and loud, but the room no longer responded. His voice bounced off walls that had already aligned with Obama's calm authority. Panic flickered in his eyes. He was used to commanding attention, But here, it had slipped beyond his reach. Obama's expression remained composed. There was no scolding, no anger, only clarity and quiet strength. People felt drawn to him, compelled to listen, to absorb the calm force radiating from someone who had mastered both words and silence. Suddenly a phone rang from the crowd, a sharp, intrusive sound that broke the spell for a heartbeat. The audience winced, but Obama simply smiled softly, allowing human imperfection to exist in the tension. It made him feel approachable, real, almost like a guardian in a storm. Trump's team whispered furiously. He gestured wildly, but the energy had already shifted. The crowd now leaned entirely toward Obama. They could sense that the climax was near. And deep inside, even Trump knew the next move would decide everything. A sudden hush fell over the hall. Even the smallest sound, a cough, a shift of a chair, seemed amplified, echoing through the tense air. The audience waited, hearts pounding, for Obama's next move. Trump tried to regain control, voice sharp and defensive, but the room was no longer his. His words collided with a wall of quiet authority. He tried again, flailing, but each sentence fell flat. Obama's gaze swept across the audience, calm and commanding. Then, unexpectedly, his voice softened. Not in weakness, but in empathy. He spoke directly to the people, acknowledging their fear, their confusion, their hope. The effect was immediate. A wave of emotion rippled through the crowd, binding them together in awe. From the back, someone whispered, "He's different." The comment spread, unnoticed by Trump but clear to the audience. Obama's humanity, his restraint, made him larger than any argument. Then a subtle, shocking twist. The screens behind him flickered, revealing a live video clip Trump had hoped would discredit him. The clip backfired, showing something unexpected about Trump instead. Gasps filled the room. Obama paused, letting the shock settle. The tide had turned completely. The next words he spoke would cement the moment forever. The audience was on the edge of their seats. Whispers became murmurs. Murmurs became stunned silence. Every eye followed Obama. Every ear hung on his words. Trump's smirk was gone, replaced by tension so sharp it was almost visible. His team scrambled, whispering urgently, but no strategy could undo what had just unfolded. Obama's 3 words had begun the storm, but now he added context, short sentences that cut straight to the truth. Each statement carried weight, authority, and undeniable moral clarity. People felt it deep in their chests, a mix of awe, hope, and disbelief. Suddenly, a minor commotion erupted near the stage. A microphone stand tipped over. The sound echoed, startling everyone. Yet Obama didn't flinch. The calm in his stance amplified the drama, making every gesture deliberate and powerful. Trump's attempts to speak became fragmented. Each word seemed weaker, less convincing. The room had already chosen its focus, and it was clear. The audience's loyalty had shifted irrevocably. Then came a quiet, almost imperceptible sound, a collective intake of breath. Obama's final words for this segment hung in the air, simple, devastating, and unforgettable. The audience froze, caught between shock and awe. No one knew how Trump would respond. And in that moment, suspense gripped the hall like a living thing. The audience sat in stunned silence. Even the slightest movement felt monumental. Every heartbeat echoed in the hall, matching the rhythm of anticipation. Obama's calm, commanding presence dominated the room. Trump's face flickered with frustration. He tried to project authority, but it was hollow. Each sentence he spoke was met with a growing wave of doubt. His words collided with the weight of Obama's restraint and clarity. Suddenly, a sharp sound, someone dropping a notebook, shattered the quiet. The audience flinched. Even Trump's advisors jumped. Yet Obama didn't move. His steady calm became more striking, a human anchor amid the storm of tension. A small twist emerged. Obama leaned slightly forward, lowering his voice, almost like a private conversation. The audience strained to hear, sensing that what he was about to say would be unforgettable. And then he spoke, not in anger, not in boast, but with gentle authority. The words resonated deeply, revealing a truth so simple yet so devastatingly clear that the room collectively gasped. Trump's eyes widened. The tables had turned completely. The room's energy had shifted irrevocably. Whispers, gasps, and murmurs swirled together like a storm. Everyone realized history was unfolding before their eyes. A faint murmur ran through the crowd. People leaned forward, gripping their seats, sensing something monumental about to happen. The tension was almost unbearable. Trump tried again, voice sharp, confident, and full of bravado. But even his loudest words fell flat. The room had moved beyond him. The audience was captivated entirely by Obama's calm authority. Then, unexpectedly, a new sound broke through. A camera flash too bright, illuminating the stage for a split second. The sudden light startled the audience, creating a flicker of chaos. But Obama remained perfectly composed. His gaze swept across the crowd. He acknowledged their fear, their hope, their disbelief. There was vulnerability, yet strength. Humanity, yet unwavering authority. People felt connected, drawn to him as if he were speaking directly to each one of them. Trump's confidence cracked further. He tried to interrupt, but the room no longer responded. His team whispered urgently, panic rising. Then Obama's voice rose, calm but firm. His words, simple yet devastatingly effective, cut through the tension like a blade. The audience gasped collectively. Even Trump knew deep inside that the battle had shifted. History was being rewritten. But the climax, the moment everyone would remember forever, was still ahead. The audience held their breath. The hall was charged with electricity, every eye on Obama. Hearts raced. Some people's palms were sweaty. Trump's attempts to command attention faltered. His voice grew sharper, louder, but hollow. The audience no longer listened. Even his closest allies whispered anxiously, realizing the tide had turned completely. Obama's calm presence dominated. Every movement, every pause was deliberate. His humanity shone through the tension. A subtle smile here, a soft nod there. People felt an unexpected wave of empathy and admiration wash over them. Suddenly, a small but vivid twist. The lights dimmed for a second, flickering like a heartbeat. The audience gasped, caught in the unexpected moment. Even Trump flinched, revealing cracks in his composure. Obama paused, letting the silence stretch. The suspense was almost unbearable. Then softly but firmly he spoke. The words were precise, emotionally charged, and impossible to ignore. The audience felt it instantly. The room had shifted irreversibly. Gasps, murmurs, and whispers swirled like wind through trees. Trump's confident facade was crumbling, even he knew it. And as Obama's next words hung in the air, the crowd realized the climax of this confrontation. The moment that would be remembered forever was only seconds away. The air in the hall felt heavier than ever. Every heartbeat, every breath seemed magnified. Obama stood poised, his calm presence almost tangible, radiating quiet strength. Trump's confidence was gone. His face tightened, hands gripping the podium as if it could anchor him against the tide. He tried to speak, but the room no longer responded. Every attempt seemed hollow, every word weak. Suddenly a faint sound, a camera clicking, echoed sharply, startling the audience. The small noise magnified the tension, making the moment feel like the edge of a knife. Yet Obama didn't move. The calm in his stance amplified the drama, each pause deliberate, drawing the crowd deeper into suspense. Then, unexpectedly, Obama leaned slightly forward. His eyes softened, revealing human vulnerability. yet layered over it was undeniable authority. The audience felt the shift immediately, hearts pounding, a mix of awe and hope washing over them. He spoke again. 3 words, clear, devastating, unforgettable. The room froze, the words hanging in the air like a thunderclap. Even Trump's expression faltered, a fleeting look of shock passing over him. The crowd gasped collectively. Something historic had happened, and everyone present knew it. Whispers ran like wildfire through the hall. The audience, previously tense, now buzzed with disbelief and admiration. Every eye was glued to Obama, every ear hanging on his next word. Trump tried again, voice sharp and loud, but it was useless. The crowd no longer answered him. Panic flickered across his face. Even his closest advisors whispered frantically, realizing the battle had shifted irreversibly. Obama's presence was magnetic. Each subtle gesture, every calm breath, drew the audience closer. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His humanity, strength, and integrity dominated the room. Suddenly, an unexpected twist. Someone in the audience stood up, a supporter of Trump. They opened their mouth to argue, to shout, but stopped mid-sentence. The way Obama had held the room's attention, the quiet authority he radiated, silenced even opposition. A shiver ran through the crowd. Hearts raced, eyes widened. Every person present felt the emotional weight, the gravity of the moment. Obama's final words for this confrontation were simple, just a few carefully chosen sentences, but they landed like a hammer striking steel. The audience exhaled collectively. History had been witnessed. Trump's eyes reflected the truth. He had lost this battle, yet the room waited, tense, for the last, unforgettable moment. The hall was completely still. Even a whisper seemed loud. Obama's calm, steady gaze swept across the audience one last time. The room hung on him, suspended in the climax of the confrontation. Trump, visibly shaken, clenched his jaw. His confidence was shattered. The audience, sensing this, erupted in murmurs of awe. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment for history. Obama took a deep breath and then delivered the final words, simple, precise. 3 words that struck deep, emotionally powerful, and impossible to forget. The crowd's reaction was instantaneous. Gasps, tears, some cheering softly, some unable to speak. Hearts pounded, chests heaved. The unexpected human moments, the child's earlier question, the slight flicker of vulnerability, the subtle gestures, made the victory more than political. It was emotional, raw, and profoundly human. Trump's eyes reflected full recognition. He had been outmatched not by anger, but by quiet strength, empathy, and clarity. The room had turned irrevocably, and then silence, a pause so heavy, so perfect, that it seemed the world itself was holding its breath. History had been written. A single man's quiet authority had shifted everything. The audience knew they had witnessed a moment that would echo forever. If you felt the power of this story, don't just watch. Like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe. Share this moment because this isn't just history, it's inspiration.